Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and this is Sunday, and Mike Jones joins all of us. Hello, Mike Jones. Thank you for joining all of us.
Yes, and I'm so happy to join all of you for this day. It's Girl Day or something like that.
Well, what this is now, come on
Girl
now.
Sunglasses
This
Day.
you may recall that Cheryl Walker in the past said we're something close to we're not putting cameras on the backs of chairs today, Miss Casanelli. And so here she's
Hmm.
rather indignant, and she's talking to this young lady because we'll be talking about the charter today. We're not wearing Josephine County chokers today, young lady.
Yes. Yes, and if you look at it, it took me a little while to figure it out, but I know how Dale does these themed pictures on Sunday. And so I'm looking at that, I'm going, how is this? And then of course I know what the Josephine County seal looks like there. And yes.
Orc. Yeah, right. And so she's wearing a choker. It's a Josephine County choker. It's not easy to be a comedian, and I haven't gotten
Yes.
there yet.
Yes.
Well, it's an effort
He's
to
still
liven
working
up
on it.
the charter for you. And what would better do it either than an angry old lady or a nice looking young lady?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so we are going to start off the news today with something that's potentially huge. It might be one of the biggest stories that we've ever done. That's saying a lot about Josephine County.
Or it could be no story at all because Keith Heck is out of his mind.
That's certainly possible. One of those two options. And which do you like best?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
so
hard to say.
so here are the two of them. It's only grandma and grandpa in the little back room, and it's the like I've said to you lots of times, you guys, you got to sit through the entire meeting in the little back room because many times the very last item is from the oh, by the way file. So Keith Eck brings up something that's got, you'll notice for the first time in a long time, Cheryl was like dumbfounded by this. And Keith brings up something about there's this industrial park supposed to be out in Merlin, and it's supposed to be the shining gem of Josephine County. Millions of dollars has been spent on this, putting in a 105 leaf clover kind of thing so one can drive into Merlin and bring in trucks and all kinds of just huge traffic jams in downtown Merlin. And we got to put in first it was a sewer system that's going to serve the state to rest stop, and then that evaporated, and well, the Paradise Ranch, that evaporated, then the elementary school, well, that evaporated, and then the high school, well, that evaporated, and then we're going to water the runways at the airport, and then that kind of the water evaporated off of there because it's not grass. So anything to convince the Infrastructure Finance Authority to give us money. We want money, because this is a huge deal. And now Moody's came in and they talked. They're the guys that raise up our ratings so we can borrow money. Isn't that a lovely idea? And then Simon Hare tells them the glories of the airport project. Wait, that's the best thing ever in Josephine County, according to Moody's. And of course, we all know what's happening with that. Nothing. So
Yes.
now here we've got
Nothing.
this one project. The only thing that we have that has succeeded in some way was tearing down a building. Woohoo, boy, we're well known for tearing down a building, and they still have no plans for what they're going to do with it. They tore it down. They had a plan for that, but what are they going to do with that land or market? Well, we don't know. Pretty soon we're going to send out an RFP for this. Really? You didn't have one before this? Okay, all right. Stop criticizing him, Dale.
Well,
we're not
yes,
criticizing commissioners today, young man.
they should know though, because all you have to do is take the temperature here in Grants Pass in terms of how the economy's going. Not many companies are going to come in here and go, well, here's an empty lot. Let's pour millions of dollars into this empty lot to make something rise up out of it and start doing business there. The economy is not supporting it right now. You're going to have to do something that makes people want to do business in Josephine County. And if you can do that, maybe you'll haul some of these people in, but really not until.
What you need to do is you need to decide which of these two ladies makes you feel like doing something. This one that's in charge of economic development What? And this one was wearing
I,
sunglasses and very little else. Okay, so
right. Yeah.
all right, so anyway, this is really important. Yes, we joke around a little bit, but wait till you hear the bombshell that Keith, kind of like, by the way, the world ends tomorrow. Just thought I'd let you know. So here's what Keith Heck has to say to Cheryl Walker about the millions and millions of dollars that we poured into North Valley Industrial Park. Go ahead, Keith. Tell her all about it.
The one item of interest is the development of the North Valley Industrial Park, or the future ownership of the North Valley Industrial Park in 12 years or whatever it is, will become the city's. So is that somehow impinging
Well,
upon
the
any of this?
industrial, the water system will become the city's. Well, the city's gonna get it. Where did you see that?
I don't know where that came from.
Because I didn't know that. I thought it was to remain county, even though it had a city water system and we were putting this in.
There was some concatenated whole that has to do with the city utilities in a certain period of time. And then
That's the city, that's the water system, the water tank and pipes.
it's the property.
The property that the water tank is on, is on the whole park.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Check with the legal counsel and then.
I was talking to her yesterday. It's just a water tank.
I wish that were so, but that might be something to look at and to discuss
Okay, I will ask.
in a future time.
I thought it was just the property of the water tank.
Yeah. Okay, nothing else?
Okay,
Nothing
else. Okay, well, and let's go have a cup of coffee. Oh, nothing else?
Yes.
No,
I have a
nothing else, Keith.
grenade right here.
Nothing else. A concatenated whole. He's pointing at his finger like this. A concatenated whole.
Yeah. What does that mean? Because yes,
He says
it's a
these
heckism.
things. Well, concatenate is it's from language theory, the theory of language. It doesn't really exist. There's just a theory about language, and from computer programming. And concatenation is like snow and ball, and then when you concatenate them, it makes the word snowball. Like, well, they were teaching, they were trying to learn about language, and so obviously they began with apes. Okay, whatever. And they take this ape out. I'm not making this up. This is a true story. It's kind of interesting. It better be. And so they take this ape out. They're teaching him sign language, American Sign Language. This is sign language. This is typing. This is playing the piano. And so they take him out on the river, and they've taught him the word for water, so we can sign that. I don't know the words. And they teach him the word for bird. And so he sees a swan for the very first time, and he says, "Oh, water bird." Kind of cool. They never thought that any other animals could concatenate. Now, heck is another kind of animal, and he has a concatenated whole. Whatever.
Yeah, but okay. So I get what concatenate means.
It doesn't make any sense in this context.
Right. Explain a concatenated whole to me.
There's no such thing. He's making it up. Okay.
Yes,
is he making
it's
up
like
this story? Okay. Now we're joking about
heckism.
this. Ha ha ha. But this is potentially a huge story. Millions of dollars of your dollars have been spent on this thing out there. And now if Keith Heck is wrong, okay, haha, Keith Heck is wrong again. I can live with that because it's better than the alternative that he's right. And all this preparation we've been doing is just to hand it over to the city. That's a big story. And it happened the very last little thing on Thursday's admin meeting. We talked to you about that earlier, but here's more.
Sounds as though his source is county council.
Right. He
so
suggested
maybe
that she speak with county council. Now, we spoke with county council for tonight's show before we heard this. So, speaking of the story, okay, so when was it that we first started talking about these? There's a little bit more news, and then we're going to go straight into the charter. You're going to love it. It's going to be fascinating. You'll see. We're not wearing county chokers today, young lady. But one news organization, that's finally caught up, or almost caught up with us here at badcounty.com, the Dale and Mike Inside News show, is the Daily Courier has finally awoken from their long slumber, and they decided to do a story this weekend. Supposedly the Sunday newspaper, it comes out on Saturday, whatever. Jim Moore finally woke up from his stupor and has decided to do a story about the potential use of road funds. When did we first tell this story, Mike? Was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? It's been a little while.
That.
And we've been talking about it. We put a lot of stuff out there. Well, now that the Daily Courier has finally broken the story, you can be sure that, maybe Kjo will see the light and do a story about it. Just one, a little one,
Perhaps they got a memo from one of the commissioners.
Now, here's the story over my shoulder. No, that's not the story. That's a different kind of story. I'm going to try to tell you what this says. Just a moment. Here we go. All right. So this is just a screen capture. Okay. I'll put on these. You can't see much of that, can you? It looks like a big white screen. It's not really a big white screen. I'm going to put these things on.
I see a couple of
need
pictures.
them. Okay. All right. Here's a smiling picture of Arthur O'Hare.
Yes.
Now, here is the way the Daily Courier is going to report this. Of course, they're going to report it like this. You remember when we talked about when the first objection, this was the first objection. Why, we can't possibly spend that money, Mr. Matthews, because it'll only last 1 year. That's wrong. So you put the money in, and then you decide to spread it out over a couple of years. Oh, well, that will leave the road funds completely depleted. No, that's totally wrong. It will not leave them completely depleted. What's the matter with you? Okay, well, then there's 5 other reasons. I think that's 5. Those are all wrong. So, of course, Jim Moore, stuck in the past, he's still repeating the party line directly from the finance director. Here's the way that he reported it. It's a bridge to nowhere, Finance Director Arthur O'Hare said. Oh, really? I think that we've passed that point, but Arthur O'Hare is still saying it. He's the finance director. He is the mouthpiece for the county commissioners who don't want to spend the money on patrols. They want to hold the money back just in case there's a big disaster. Remember how it was supposed to be an emergency situation? You must vote for the levy. That's no longer an emergency, don't you know? Now, the next emergency is a big earthquake, which is coming any day now. It could come any day now.
That's right.
Really?
Or anytime in the next, say, 300 years or so.
O'Hare is concerned. This is Jim Moore writing. He's finally discovered this story. He got a flashlight. He reached around behind, and he found a story pasted to his bottom, and he used a flashlight in both hands. O'Hare is concerned because the law that permits the transfer will expire in January, meaning similar funds won't be available next year. What is the answer to that? Mike Jones, we've talked about this about 100 times. What's the answer to that, Mike?
I don't know. I didn't catch all of what you were saying there.
Oh, geez. So O'Hare says, according to Jim Moore, that those funds won't be available next year. So we can kiss those goodbye. No, not necessarily. There is a movement afoot in Josephine and Salem that may extend that out. And we haven't even tried to see if we extend it out. Now, here's your question. Right. We see Cheryl Walker going to Salem to lobby them for the idea of growing hemp. She's going to indirectly or directly benefit from this. So she's going to make a trip up there to do that. What do you think is the possibility that she's going to make the same kind of trip to try to get an extension of the road funds that can be used to fund your sheriff? Probably zero.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to do that.
That doesn't bring new money in. They don't want to be shuffling around existing money. They want new money coming in out of your pocket. That's the whole point of all of this.
Now, O'Hare then says, it's not sound fiscal practice to spend the time and money in recruitment and training only to lay off your new hires at the end of June, O'Hare said. Now, have we talked about this too?
Mm-hmm.
The sheriff even talked about it. Jim Moore was at the meeting when the sheriff talked about it, but Jim Moore's not writing it that way, is he? If you read only the Courier, you're going to come to the necessary conclusion drawn by Jim Moore of the Courier that this is a done deal. It's impossible. Why? The obstacles to be overcome are just overwhelming, and it's not going to be possible. He doesn't present any of the other arguments. None.
Yeah, and that's how they do business, and that's what to expect from them. Really, I'm not surprised. And you know, the commissioners have been going back and forth, but the flavor that we got at last Wednesday's meeting was no way, we're not doing this. You know,
the next day in the little back room, you heard Cheryl say, "We played this for you. No way, no how. I don't want to do it." That's what she said.
Yeah.
Now, we shared that with the sheriff, and when he comes back in on Monday morning, he'll get a chance to see that, probably the first time he's heard about it. Now, why do you think that this is only speculation? I don't know. And Mike certainly doesn't know. But what do you think that Cheryl did as soon as she heard this last little bit of news from Keith? She didn't call the sheriff to tell him what they were saying. She called legal counsel. Hey, what's going on with my legacy? I still want to work on this no matter what. Right? No matter what, even if it's all going to the city tomorrow, I still want to do this because this is my baby. You know, I got to talk with the sheriff. He's just boring old news. This is news 12 years from now. Okay, one more thing. Now, there's a difference. I would submit to you, our loyal viewers, there's a difference between misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is when you're uninformed. That's like Mike and I. Disinformation is when people are telling you stuff which is deliberately designed to deceive you. The Daily Courier? That's just not very nice, Mr. Matthews. You listen to this and see what you think. However, because of uncertainties about the amount of federal money that would actually be received, Goodwin made a subsequent motion to take $500,000 rather than $1 million. Now, so I ask you, you've seen our video. We've talked about our video. Mike, did Peggy Goodwin change it from $1 million request to $500 million because of uncertainties about money that would be available?
No, she did it because she offered up the option of moving $1 million, and it didn't even get seconded by anybody on the entire panel.
Well, that's
why she offered.
This is the Jim Moore version of reality. That story's not here. The fact that they didn't do that is not here. He's writing it as fact, not quoting somebody. That because of the uncertainties, be aware of the uncertainties. Because of the uncertainties, she changed her. That's completely false, Jim Moore. That's not misinformation, buddy. That's disinformation. There's your Daily Courier.
Yeah, that's incorrect. For sure.
So, I love the Courier, as you can tell. They're really doing us a service. A disservice, a misservice. Okay, I'm going to change this around because I don't like this big white page behind me. This place is just, it's full of, oh, here's my favorite. We're not wearing county chokers today, young lady. So we will now talk with Wally Hicks. When we last visited with Wally, he was hanging over a cliff by his fingernails. Wally was telling us about the county charter as we meet with him and talk with him every Sunday about this. And he was going to lead into the whole thing about how amendments to the charter happen and the kind of process and some details about that. We'll be talking with him more about that. We have another meeting set up with him. So we'll meet with the sheriff tomorrow. We'll meet with Wally next Friday. And so we're going to ask a couple more questions about amendments and some of the most important ones. Tell us a couple of the important amendments that you know of just right off the top of your head, Mike. Important amendments to the charter.
Well, there's supposed to be local protections for your due process rights, your Second Amendment rights, your rights to let's see here. There was I don't remember right off the top of my head.
But those are two big ones.
Yeah, those are two real big. Actually, there are a couple of amendments that deal with due process and just compensation, and then also, your right to not have nudity inflicted upon you and things of that nature.
Honestly, I have no
hey,
objection.
I waive my right to not have nudity inflicted upon me.
Yeah, really. Okay. All right. In fact,
Yes.
can we have it changed to you must have it inflicted upon you? Because
Yes, right.
Okay. All right. So
Yes, that's a horrible paraphrase, but yes, there.
it is
Yeah,
not
there
a
are a
very
number
That's right.
of good things. Please go read the charter yourself. Don't
Next, we'll
depend
be
on
getting
my
a text
recollection.
from Vivian Kirkpatrick Pilger saying, do you have to
Yes,
talk about
right.
such things? Yes, we have.
Yes, we do. We're men. What are you going to do?
Yes, that's right. So let's talk a little bit here with Wally, and he's going to tell us a bit about the amendment process to the charter. These are important things that happen and affect you on a daily basis, whether you know it or not. We're telling you they do.
So now that we have our charter in Josephine County, what the committee and the citizens chose to put in there was the provisions for subsequent amending. The charter has been amended many times.
How long before the First Amendment, Wally?
The First Amendment was November of '86.
5 years.
Yeah, just about. So,
So were each of those amendments put on the ballot as well and voted on?
yes. And the way they got on the ballot was to the provisions of the charter itself.
Okay, this is really important because there are a lot of people who feel
Yeah.
that there are certain things in the charter that should be changed, not just by executive fiat or executive forward, but by a voter's consent. And therefore, if you think that there's something that should be in there, what is the process?
Okay, so, yes. Okay, that is found in section 27 of the charter, which states as follows: except as county ordinance prescribes to the contrary, the manner of exercising the initiative and referendum with reference to a county proposition, including an amendment, revision, or repeal of this charter, shall be in the manner prescribed by the Constitution and laws of the state for doing so. And then it says, let's see, basically, that wasn't the one that was right on point. That one gets there, but you must do so by solely through the initiative process. It must be done solely through the initiative process.
So I would assume that would include, again, you petition, and then it would go straight to the ballot if your petitions were, you don't have to go through this process of having a committee.
Right.
Again, you just, you propose the amendment, then you get enough signatures to put it on the ballot, and then.
Like any measure?
Exactly. Right.
Any measure, that's right.
Yes, it has to be done through the initiative process. That's the only one there. And of course, now that I'm in front of the camera, I'm not finding it the specific provision here, but I do want to try and keep looking.
Well, that's a general rule.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is
that's
pretty
how it
much.
always works.
Well, this is a live show, and we can go 2 hours if we have to, Wally.
Ideally, that's not how long it'll take. Well, all right. But that is the fact. So it must be done strictly through the initiative process, and the charter does tell us that in plain terms. And so that has occurred multiple times in the history of this county. And most of the charter provisions that people pay the most attention to even are the ones that were added through the initiative process. So, concerned citizens decided they wanted to put out a petition and get something put into the charter. They got the majority of the voters to go along with it, and therefore we have the charter that we have today.
Well, the Bill of Rights was all additions.
Right.
Every one of them, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I think those were all done at the same time, though, weren't they?
Yeah.
First time. Oh, wait a minute. No, there were some other abolition of slavery and
Right.
and
Amendments.
Yes.
These are amendments also.
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay. So, in terms of invalidating some of the amendments to the charter, those were done strictly on a legal basis, or did people petition and then put those on as initiatives to negate some of those, or are all the annotations or those legal challenges to the amendments?
The annotations from the 2005 memo, you
Yeah.
mean? Are they? I think there was.
Because I
There
mean,
was a
there's
court ruling.
the one that people most commonly refer to is the one that then takes the compensation that was meant for commissioners, and there was an amendment in there, and I forget which one it is. Pardon me. That says that they only get paid $30,000, and then somebody came back at some point after that and said, "Well, no, because of this particular case, that isn't the case."
And the other one is fees.
And those were both done as legal challenges to it by, I guess, Steve Rich, or it'd be in the annotations.
Well, it wasn't done by the people, by the populace.
No, it was court cases.
Right.
Yes, court cases.
Where, and at least one case, Steve Rich, elected legal counsel, actually went to represent against the people who had put that codicil in the charter.
But was there a challenge to that here because of something somebody said, I'm not getting paid enough, and there's a law that says that I need to get paid, or was it strictly initiated by county council to go in and strike that down on the behalf of say commissioners who maybe wanted to get paid?
We had asked you that before.
Yeah, I still know
Does
that.
it start with not just one person, probably the commissioners plus the legal counsel? Does it start with the legal counsel saying, we're going to oppose this, he and the commissioners probably, or is it based solely on a case? Does someone have to complain, or is it enough that the bureaucracy complain?
Oh, you're asking, I think, about a declaratory judgment. And that means that you basically always have to have a justiciable controversy to get in front of a judge. Which means there has to be a controversy between somebody. Somebody has to be arguing with someone else.
Right. But is it always based on a court case, or is it enough to argue on behalf of commissioners who are not happy about the amount they're being paid? Do they have to enter into a court case, or can it be initiated by the county commissioners and legal counsel?
I think.
Okay, want me to say that again in a different way?
way?
Okay. On some of these, it's obvious that they were based on court cases, whether the court cases were here or in Portland.
Yes.
Is it also possible that they can be argued without a court case?
Argued without a court case?
That is simply because they don't like it, and they're going to go to court to try to see that without a court case, to say, without two people arguing with each other, an entity and a person, to say, look, we don't like this, and it doesn't have to be based on a court case.
Yeah, without having a public complaint having been made.
That's right.
In other words, just somebody here in public service says, you know what, I really don't like the fact that I'm only paid $30,000 a month. 30,000, but I would like to be paid 30,000 a month. No, 30,000 a year. And they say, hey,
Steve, go oppose
Steve,
this.
go look into that or something. Go find a case. Well, maybe as in the case of that, because they refer to Lane County Transportation versus Lane County, that what they're talking about there is that you just go find some conflict to something like that, and then you can bring it in here, or is it something that has to happen here?
Well, obviously not.
Challenge
Does it?
Here.
Doesn't have to happen here.
It depends on if it's precedential, if it's a case that establishes precedent.
Yeah, but I mean, they had to have, so somebody had to say, hey, wait a minute, why don't you go back in and see if you can go find something that interrupts that? How does that happen?
Yeah, just a minute. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, hi. Okay. Oh, yeah, just a minute. Okay.
I'm here.
Thanks.
Wait,
Whoa,
Thank you.
cool.
Okay. All right, guys. I think our 5 minutes is up here. Let me put it this way. I am looking very earnestly at these 2005 annotations and everything that's in there. And I haven't necessarily reached conclusions about really most of it or any of it. So a lot of this I don't have the answer to because I'm still, the question is still open for me.
Well, our show goes on more than just today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be on tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So, all right, we'll come
We're
back
not
and
going to do
see
this
you.
tomorrow and the next day.
Oh, no, we'll come back and see you every day,
No,
Wally.
Listen, I thank you very much for taking the time to do this because it's fascinating every time. And I know that, you know, sometimes it gets down to where you're parsing words.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and
but
that's,
it does.
That's the difficult part of this. And that's what you have to do, the price you have to pay to get some understanding of it, you know?
Yes.
Thank you for helping people understand, Wally.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, he's never letting us come back again. Oh, you're muted.
I'm
Yes,
doing that
I
on purpose this
see
time.
you're
Oh,
talking
okay, all right. But
Yeah.
this was a sexy subject, and it's about betrayal. It's about sex and betrayal, Dale. Yes, true. In this case, here is Steve Rich, the former elected legal counsel. After this huge effort that the population made, because it takes a lot of work to get this on the ballot, we know this, and to get it passed has to be, you know, lots of people have to vote and they have to really care, and then they're trying to be very careful, and here's our justification, and here's our rationale behind it. This is what we want to have happen. And then the elected legal counsel, the only elected one in the whole state, goes to court to fight on behalf of the commissioners so they can get more of their phony baloney salary above $30,000. Oh, really?
Yeah, this question has yet to be fully answered. And
Yeah, buddy. Well, I fully answered it. This guy betrayed us. 20 years of that. Wally Hicks may not be perfect. He's not. Well, I am, but he's not. No, none of us is perfect, but at least we're not putting up with 20 years of someone elected by you who then goes to court to fight against what you've made it clear what you want. And he did that so that the commissioners could continue collecting more than $30,000 because they want more than $30,000. And no matter what the population would like them to have.
Yes, of course. But, and it's funny because we've heard this one explained a number of times. Oh, well, that was determined to be unconstitutional. Well, it doesn't say in the annotations that this is unconstitutional. It cites a specific court case, or actually two.
Was it a Portland case about bus drivers or something?
Well, it was Lane County Lane County Transit versus Lane County. Well, that to me, how does that have to do with elected officials? I'm not sure. Maybe it just has to do with employees, and they're equating the commissioners to employees, and then they're making this connection. But here's the thing. You would think if that had to do with a complaint that took place in Josephine County, that would have been cited in those annotations, and it's not. So this is an open question, and it needs to be answered. And the county council is sitting there going, he doesn't know, you know. So
and how much of your tax dollars did Steve Rich, and now he's the legal counsel for another place, how much of your county tax dollars did he spend researching this to find just the right court case to go to court against you? Now, I'm going to say this again. I'm running for commissioner. Okay, big deal, blah, blah. Okay, but I'm going to be a yardstick. And if you're running for county commissioner and you're going to run against me, I'm going to be asking you, are you going to follow the charter? Well, yes, of course. I always followed. Are you going to take the amount that it says? Well, no, because I don't like that. Are you going to follow the charter? Well, some of the time I will and some I won't. That's not going to work, pal.
Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Matthews, it's been determined to be unconstitutional, and therefore I will take what the job pays.
So
What do you
now,
have to say
just
about
hold
that?
on a second there, Mr. Person that's running for county commissioner. I talked to a couple of the other commissioner candidates, and there are only a couple of them who want to do this. Well, yeah, but the point is, are you a public servant, or are you floating above with the help of the previous legal counsel? I want to float above everybody. I'm a soaring eagle. No, you're a crow. An
Well,
ugly
you know what?
crow at that. You know what? You really either obey what the people have said or you're not a public servant.
Well, and listen, Keith Heck got around this whole thing because during the time when he was campaigning for that office, he said, "Yeah, I'll take less than the." And they said, would you take, 50? Oh yeah, I'll take 50. And of course, then later after he gets elected, he goes, well, they wouldn't let me do that. So,
Well, he's complained about it,
and
but
that's how they dance around that one.
his biggest complaint would be, well, I'd have to pay all the taxes. That's the job. Now, is that fair? No, probably not. But you pay all the taxes and then you pocket the 30. That includes all your benefits too. That's what the charter says. So either you support the charter or you don't. And if you do, then you're going to obey the will of the people and not be tasking someone to go and challenge it in court. I just find that while I'd use the word justicable, I find this despicable.
Yes. It's odd. You get hired and, ostensibly to, execute the will of the people, and which is partly embodied in the charter there, and then you challenge them in court. And of course, you don't tell anybody from the other side to show up and challenge you back. And so
you're using their money to challenge them. You're paying yourself and legal counsel and the time of his staff to go research this to find some obscure case that makes it. You don't need to find an obscure case. It's not necessary to look it up in a rule book. All you need to do, there's one rule book that I pay attention to more than any other. It's one of the best-selling books in the whole world. And what you do is you don't go to court against what the people have told you what they want. It's easy to see what the people want. And you just do that. And you're not searching for a way around the will of the people. Execute the will of the people or execute the people. Which would you prefer?
Oh, jeez. Wow.